Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a new tutorial in ZBrush. Well, I recently did a poll on the channel where I asked you guys what type of content you preferred. And a lot of you still want to see Maya tutorials, which is a given. I will always continue to do that. But in addition, I asked you guys about ZBrush tutorials and whether you wanted to see the fast-paced time-lapse type deal or whether you would prefer the slow-pace instructional / educational type video where I explain every step of the process. That definitely had your preference, okay? So in today's video, as you can see by the references, I'm going to manually sculpt a piece of wood, like a board, right? And I'm going to explain every step of the process. I'm using a pure ref to hold on to my references here, but I'll get that out of the way so you guys have more space to look at. And that said, let's jump into ZBrush. Okay, so I typically start off, if I go to Preferences and I go to Initialize ZBrush and hit OK with a fresh scene. Thing is though, yours might look different for whatever reason that may be, yeah? So what you can do is go up to Preferences, Config, and then Restore Standard UI. That will give you kind of the default layout, so we're all on the same page, okay? All right, so what's next? Well, we need a base shape to start our board with, yeah? So I'm going to click on Simple Brush, this big S right here, and I'm going to select the cube, and I'm going to click and drag with my pen in this case, and hold Shift so it will snap, right? Now, we need to click on Edit up here, or hit T on your keyboard, which is kind of the same thing. And you can see by my cam view here that I need to rotate this guy, okay? And again, I'm going to hold on Shift because that will allow me to snap to a certain view. I'm going to hit F to frame it in the middle, and then I'm going to hold on Alt, I'm going to drag and then release Alt and push it back a little bit, okay? So this is what we have so far. Now, the reason why it's looking like this is because we're in orthographic mode. Now, I prefer perspective mode, which is this guy right here, or you can also just hit the P on your keyboard, which will give you this. All right, so we wanted to make a board, not a cube. So how do we fix that? We're going to go down to the bottom and we're going to click on Initialize. And as we do so, we have the X, Y, and Z value that we can change. So let's start to push in that X value to, let's say, something like so. We'll take the Z value, something like this, and let's make it a bit thinner, I would say. That should be fine, and lengthwise we're at 100, which is okay. All right, so now that we have that, we now need to turn it into an actual editable object, right? Or object that we can edit. I mean, an editable object is something different, I guess. So we're going to hit Polymesh 3D. If we now go to Subtool, you'll see that we now have one subtool, which is our board. And if you don't like the PM3D and so forth, you can go into Rename, which is this guy right here. And we'll just type in board. And hit enter. Now that can come in handy if you're making something like a character where you got eyeballs and eyelids and ears and a nose and all that, and at some point it's easier to just see what's what, yeah? Okay, so we got this. Now I'm going to hit F on my keyboard to frame it, and the first thing we need to do before we can sculpt is add some geometry. Looking at our active points right now, it's 482, which is not nearly enough, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Subtool, click on it to close it, go to Geometry, click on it to open it, and then we're going to go to Divide. Now, if I click on Divide as is, I will get smooth corners. So look what happens. Look at the end of my board there. That is not what I want. The reason why that's happening is because of this guy, the Smooth modifier. So I'm going to hit Control Z to go back. I'm going to turn off the Smooth modifier, and then I'm going to go into Divide. And you can see every time I tap that, the number is going up. Divide again, 126K. which is fine for now. If I want to see my poly groups, I can click on this guy, polyframe, and you'll see that's our subdivision right now, right? Now let's turn that off. And what I do prefer is to have a different material on the board while I'm working on it, because the light tells me a bit better, what kind of detail I have, right? So I'm going to go into the material section here, and I'm going to go and select, let's see, where's he at? I would say basic material 2. There you go. So we got this kind of gray material going on. Okay, now we're ready to sculpt. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take out a couple of sharp corners, and for that I'm going to use the trim dynamic brush. So I'm going to hit B on my keyboard, B for brush, T for trim dynamic. I'm going to go down here and click on this guy. Now the red circle is my brush size, so if I were to go over these edges right now, you can see that the impact is huge, right? Hit Control Z to go back. We're going to hit S on the keyboard, and we're going to change the brush's size. Now you can hit S on the keyboard, or you can go up here to draw size and just change it there, right? Let's try that again. Now the idea here is, for now, that you just want to kind of randomly hit those corners. Hang on. You want to randomly hit those corners to kind of take off those sharp edges, and don't do that too consistently, because then it will look like something that's artificial, right? And depending on the length of the video, let's see if I can do the entire board. Maybe when I'm doing a lot of repetitive steps with the same brush, I might speed it up, but I want to explain as much as possible. Okay, all right, so just kind of hit that here and there, especially on those sharp corners. You don't necessarily have to hit all of them, but you just want to make sure that it looks all right. Okay. Okay. Now let's hit F again to frame that. Starting to get there, and like I said, it's a process, so take your time. You should at least be doing this for, I would say, 10 minutes or so, right? For the purpose of the video, I don't want it to take forever, so I'll try to make it quick, and it's more important that you understand the principles of it. Yeah, all right, but we're getting there. Okay, so now we have that. What we're going to do next is we're going to kind of take a couple of nicks out of the board. Yeah, so let me just rotate this guy around. There you go. What we're going to do next is we're going to change brushes. We're going to go up to this guy right here, or hit B to open that up, and I'm looking for the clip curve brush, this guy right here. It says hit Control Shift to use it. Okay, that's fine. We're going to set this guy a little bit at an angle, like so, and then what we're going to do is we're going to hit Control Shift. We're going to drag this, and you'll see that the upper part of the line is kind of gray, right? That's where it's going to cut. We're going to go to about here. We're going to double tap on the Alt key, so Alt, which will give us a straight angle, and then we're going to pull it out and do something like this. This will cut into the board, and because of the angle we had, it will do something like that, right? So let's do a couple more. Control Shift, Alt, there you go. Let's switch that over to this end. Control Shift. There you go. Maybe one here. That wasn't deep enough. There you go. Okay, so we're getting something like that, which is fine. Yeah. Of course, you want to do that on the other end as well. You can actually go in and do that on the sides, but that would be less likely. Things like that happen because of the wood being wet and then drying up and cracking and that kind of thing. And it would be more likely that it would happen on the ends there. Yeah. So let's do a few here as well. All right. So now that we have that in place, we're going to go back to our trim dynamic brush, right? So, and actually that's what we got open if we don't hit Control Shift, so that's good. So we're going to make sure we got that one selected, and let's go in here and increase the brush size just a little bit. And again, you can do that by hitting S on your keyboard. And we're going to make some slight dings in it that are a little bit bigger than the ones we had. And this is more to reflect something like the board being damaged, right? Dropped on the floor, used, wear and tear, that kind of thing. All right. Couple at the end here. Okay. And again, in reality, you would be spending a lot more time doing this, right? I mean, getting this thing done properly from start to finish, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe. You get the idea, yeah? All right. So there you have it, yeah. All right, so we're going to F again. Now, the next thing I want to do is use my move brush. Now, the move brush is purely intended for like dents and bumps and that kind of stuff, right? Now, first of all, boards are rarely ever straight. And I know from experience, when you go out and buy wood, especially this is used wood, old wood, it wouldn't look like that at all. So we're going to hit B for brush, M for the move tool. And we're going to click on the move tool. We're going to make that nice and big, draw size, yeah, and maybe even a lot bigger than that. And let's see if we can slightly bend that board. And I already did. Hopefully you can see that. Let me just show you. There's a very, very slight bend in there, and I can go in and go a bit further than that, but I don't want to be too extreme, right? Okay, so there's definitely a bend in there, yeah? Okay, next thing you want to do is see if you can twist it a little bit, and again, don't exaggerate that, right? Just keep it minimal. So let's hit F once again. Hold on, Shift to snap it like so. And in order for us to switch this, what we need to do is mask part of it. So I'm going to hold down the Control key, and I'm going to, let's say, mask that part, right? Now, I'm going to go to the masking menu because I don't want this to be too sharp. So I'm going to click on Blur Mask several times. Okay, now that I have that, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to select the object, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it. So I'm going to hit W on my keyboard to pull up the gizmo, yeah? And if I do this, you see that we're twisting it, yeah? Now, of course, this is way, way, way too much. So we're going to keep it super subtle. Try to anyway. A very, very slight twist in the board. Okay, and then if you like, you can even go in and twist it like this, but of course that's way too much, yeah? So let's not go there. Okay. Okay, so that's fine. Let's take our standard brush again. Yeah, let's clear our mask. So hold down Control and drag outside. Yeah, and there you go. And next what we're going to do is we're going to go and use our standard brush, and we're going to start to draw some grooves on the board. So we've got standard brush. We're going to make sure that we got Z sub, which means that we're going to make grooves instead of bumps. Yeah, we're going to make the brush way, way, way smaller. Let's hold down Shift and snap it like this. And let's check the size here. That's way too big. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start at the end there, and I'm going to create lines that do not cross. So you don't want to do this, yeah? So kind of like this flow right here. And something like that, right? And then you'll have another one come from here. You'll have one come from here. There you go. That kind of thing. So just make sure that they don't cut into each other. Yeah. Okay, so it gets something like that, right? Let's have a look. Yeah, starting to get there. All right, then we're gonna go in and let me do the other side as well. Hang on. All right, so next we're going to look at these ends here, and that's too big. We're going to push it a bit smaller, maybe increase that intensity a little bit, and we're just going to simply ding that up a little bit. And this looks super visible right now. It will become less in a minute, right? After frame, let's do the same here. Make that a bit smaller. What we're doing here is we're just kind of, creating some dings and whatnot. Keep in mind, this wood has been thrown on the ground, laying outside in the rain, all that kind of stuff, yeah? All right, so let's go and move this guy around. And I think that that bend is a little bit much, so let's see if we can sort that out, all right? So yeah, let's do that. We're gonna mask that out. Let's go to the masking menu. We're still in there. Let's go to blur mask. Quite a bit. Let's see if we can kind of push that back a little bit like that. Okay, good. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to open up the move brush. So B and M for move. Let's go to move. Let's keep the brush fairly small. And the idea here is to create very small dents. And again, don't go overboard with that, yeah? Don't make them all the same depth either, all right? So let's go and move here. Make it a bit smaller even. And key here is diversity. So don't do a whole bunch of the same. Do a little bit of everything, right? At least that's my approach. Okay, so we got that. After frame, let's hit Alt and pull that out, and then let's flip it over a little bit. And now what we're going to do next is we're going to add some noise to our board. All right. So how do we do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go in and let's close our masking menu, and let's go into surface. So where's our surface menu? Right here. And we're going to click on Lightbox Noisemakers, which will open all these options here. Now, I don't see any specific wood material here. This might look a little bit like it, but it's not what I want. What I actually prefer is maybe something like this guy. And we'll have a go at it, and let's see if we like it or not. Okay, so we're gonna close the lightbox, and we're gonna have a look. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna edit this a little bit. So in my surface menu, I'm gonna click on the edit, which will give me a preview of this guy right here. And you can see that the noise right now is very extreme. So let's adjust that. We're gonna push down the noise scale And the noise scale is related to the pattern, right? But more importantly, let's look at the strength. That needs to go down a lot. And then let's see what else. Look at this guy right here. Let's have a go, and we can go back and fix it if we don't like it. There you have it, right? So you get something looking like this. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to try and see if we can get a material where we have less sheen on it. Let's try madcap green. All right, and then we can go in here and we can change the color if you like, but it's I think this is fine. Yeah. So what we can do now is set up a light. So we're going to go to lights, and we've got one light going on right here. Let's move that over here. Let's bump up that intensity a little bit. And we may want to add a secondary light. And what we're going to do is do a Shift R to do a quick BPR render. Let's see if he's willing to cooperate. There you go. It's still quite dark, as you can see. So what we'll do is we'll look at the light setup here. I'm looking at the light angle as well. That's better. I'm pushing down that distance a little bit. Looking at the angle. And I think that's fine. And then what we can do is change the color if we like a little bit. So this is quite dark, as you can see. What I'll do there is I'll go in here and I'll make sure we're in RGB, yeah. Turn off Z add. Go into the color and create something that's a lot brighter, I would say. Something like this, yeah. I think that's fine. So yeah, we'll go in. We'll I'll export it into Photoshop and do a render and whatnot. But this is basically the video as far as sculpting is concerned. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you got any additional things you want to see and whether you thought it was helpful or not. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Here's the final render out of Photoshop. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.
Status, I'm a big dog vet. I pull up on the block in a big